Hello, everybody. It's Terry and Renee. And you know, darling, we were just talking about
partnership.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes, it's a wonderful, wonderful word. And it means that we can get something done even bigger and better when we work together to do it.
Well, yeah, because nobody can do anything all by themselves.
No, that's right. That's
all
right.
Throughout history, God has given people partners. You know, I've partnered with Ministries since I was a kid in church. I'm sure you have too.
Yes.
Still partnering with Ministries all over, everywhere, and helping them get stuff done. And we're so grateful to our own partners that have helped us do things for 52 years around the world. We pray for them daily.
Things,
but all of us need somebody, and all of us are helping somebody, and all of us are in this thing together because we are God's community, God's team, getting the gospel to the world.
You weren't meant to walk this journey alone either.
None of us were. Thank you for watching today, and you won't want to miss this next program. So all of heaven is watching the earth all the time, looking for a man or a woman that's going to use the Word of God, that's going to speak the Word of God, that's going to move on the Word of God. And when they do, heaven moves.
Hello, everyone. We're so glad you've joined us today. It's just been a thrill to think about starting a brand new year. And 2023, those 12 checks Terry has always talked about that God gives us at the beginning of every year to really take the time to gather vision, planning. God is a God of order, and He is also a God of abundance, so He's not planning on less than last year.
No, He's not.
And so we're just thrilled with that, to think about the expectation. I always like to think about those scriptures in Psalms where it just says little things like, expect the Lord, expect the Lord. And so I want to encourage you today with that. Expect the Lord. You know, get a calendar out, be determined, be specific, order this thing out, lay it out there. Take the calendar and the months of the year, even on your phone, lay your hands on it. Pray, believe God, vision. Think about the holidays and the activities and all the things your family does at specific times of the year. And then start laying hands on that and praying over that and believing God. Let your prayers, like Jeremiah 31:9, I think it is. It says, they shall come together and pray together, pouring out prayers for the future. And we wouldn't be giving you the report today of all the great things that God has done through JMICF, all the things that we're believing God, the pastors' conferences and things that you're planning in different parts of the world for this coming year. You know, you have to plan ahead. You have to expect the Lord. You have to expect more than enough. And you really have to fight off hell to get everything you're believing for. But that's a whole wonderful process in prayer. You know, in talking about JMICF, darling, you've helped this orphanage in Romania, built buildings there.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And done a tremendous amount of work in Romania over the last 20 plus years, 24, I guess, coming up now. And it's just amazing what all has been done over there. And I want you to talk about some of that today. We've had some bad news, sorrowful news, that the man that you have been working with over there, the wonderful
our friend
Paul Crisan, just went on to be with Jesus. Good news for him, sad news for us.
Yeah, he wouldn't come back.
No.
But we're not happy about it.
No. What
Paul was a good guy.
He was, and he was amazing.
Paul lot of people say, Paul's a missionary. No, Paul wasn't a missionary. Paul was a Romanian.
Yeah.
And he was ministering in Romania. I've said for many, many years, you can't be a missionary to your own country. Like I can't be a missionary to the United States of America because I'm American. And if you're Kenyan, you can't be a missionary to Kenya. You're either an apostle, a prophet, evangelist, a pastor, a teacher, or whatever God's called you to be in your country.
That's right.
And you have outreaches in your country, but to do missions, and of course it takes a different country. But anyway, Paul was Romanian, grew up under communism, and
what a testimony!
Horrible, evil things that went on under communism. And, of course, the Nazis before that, although he was too young to be involved in that. But Paul got saved, went in the ministry, filled with the Holy Spirit, Gypsy, and lived under that horrible regime for all those many years. And the secret police, of course, was always after the church and always after the Bibles. They would take Paul down to the police station. They'd arrested him many times and took him down to the police station. They'd take his fingernails and put them in the door jamb and shut the doors on his fingernails and say, now, where's the secret meeting tonight? Where are the Bibles at? Where are the Christians at? And, of course, he wouldn't tell. And they'd beat him. His wife one time was pregnant, and they brought her down to the police station with Paul. And then the policeman stood around and beat her in the belly with her fist until she aborted the baby, till she had a miscarriage, lost the baby. Horrible things. Other pastors had their daughters raped in front of them, had their wives raped in front of them. Just horrible, terrible, evil things. And one night, one of the secret policemen accidentally came up on the place where they were going to have service.
Yes.
And so he went in and found they had kerosene lanterns sitting around. And so he took the kerosene lamps and went outside and dumped the kerosene out, Renee, and then filled it with gasoline. And then put them back. And so when Paul came in that night for service, then he took lit the lantern, and of course it blew up because it's gasoline, not kerosene. And so all over his body was burned from his neck, arms down. And the first time I introduced Renee to him, of course he had on a suit and tie. And I told Renee, I said, you can't see, it's not on his hands or his neck, but if you could see the rest of his body, it's just burned where he was, that happened because of that evil policeman. But anyway, Paul started helping. Paul actually escaped, got away. His wife, his children, and got away to America. Okay. They moved to Seattle, Washington. He was actually on several television stations here because Pat Robertson interviewed him. I think Paul and Jan Crouch interviewed him. Other people interviewed, because he has such a tremendous testimony. And he just couldn't stay away from Romania. It just kept bothering him and bugging him. And so he said, I just can't stay in America. My people are suffering and the gypsies are suffering. So he went back to Romania. And after a number of years, his wife, bless her heart, I'm not down on her at all, but after a while, she just said, Paul, I'm not coming to Romania. And he said, well, I'm not coming back to the States. And so they got an amicable divorce, sadly. But anyway, so he started helping the gypsies and the gypsy churches, and he started taking in orphans.
That's right.
And so many orphans that he took in over the decades. I've known them since they were infants, since they were babies. Helped some of them get adopted out to America, and then the Romanian government actually stopped foreign adoptions and wouldn't let us adopt any kids out of Romania to America anymore, which was an evil thing. And but anyway, all these years, Paul's taking care of those orphans and raised orphans. And then he also very, very influential in the gypsy churches, the Pentecostal gypsy churches there, and helping the poor gypsies. And so that's where we started helping him with orphans and with the impoverished gypsies and that sort of thing in the gypsy churches.
Well, when you came to Corpus Christi and were telling our church there about your time there in Romania and having met Paul and all the things that were going on. At the time, they'd have 100 babies in a room.
Oh, yeah.
And
not Paul, but the Romanian government.
The Romanian government. And Paul would go in there and just take out however many he could get.
Yeah. You could just go in some of those hospitals. I've been in them. It's heartbreaking. And just go in some of those hospitals and just open a room, and they've just got 50, 60, 70, up to 100 babies. Maybe somebody'd come in and change their diaper once a day. Somebody come along and feed them once a day, but they were just not cared for and just living like animals in a room. Yeah. Malnutrition, dirty. And
And so Paul would take as many as he could, and he had a great favor with the Romanian government. And so we started helping him.
Right.
And I've been through 10 regimes in Romania, and different regimes would call me in their offices and say, hey, Dr. Mize, we see how you've treated these orphans, what you've done for them, things you've built, and the ways you've helped. So would you take this orphanage? I said, yes, I'll take it. You need to sign the papers. But they told me over the years they'd give me 3 different orphanages, and I just said yes to every one of them, and they never ever signed the papers because another regime would come in, we'd have to start all over. But anyway, Paul has been a great friend, great guy, and married to a lovely lady named Cammie. I've known Cammie since she was a college student, I guess.
Wonderful woman.
And she'd come help at the orphanage because she had a degree in child behavior or psychology or something.
Right. And she speaks English.
Oh, yeah, great lady.
Very well.
Great lady. And but anyway, we've just had this relationship all these years. And when I first went to Romania, and I had no desire to go to Romania. I never really did want to go to Europe. Or the communist bloc nations. I always like the primitive nations, the jungle, the villages. You know, the more primitive it is, the better I like it. But one particular time back in the 90s, I guess it was, I was preaching for my dear friend Terry and Dorcas Mize, who now pastor in Del Rio, Texas.
Right.
At that time, they were pastoring in Camden, Arkansas. And they were partners of our ministry, and we were good friends and family friends. Their family, our family, all have been friends forever, still are. And I put Terry on the board of JMICF, of Jackie Mize International Children's Foundation. You know, we started, Jackie and I started that foundation just so we could give to humanitarian aid situations. We had our ministry anyway, Terry Mize Ministries, which we did that with. But yeah, we'd try to go in when there was a disaster, a hurricane, a tsunami, tornadoes, cyclones, whatever, famines, terrible things would happen. And so we'd try to go in, and many countries wouldn't let me in to help because I'm a minister. They'd say, why are you here? Who are you? I'm Terry Mize. Well, what do you do? I'm a minister. Well, why are you here? Well, I'm here to help. Well, no, we don't need any ministers, And we
need food and water and blankets.
Food and water and blankets. I got all that. But finally, Jackie and I said, look, let's just form a humanitarian organization and call it Jackie Mize International Children's Foundation, or JMICF. And that way I can get into countries instead of going there and saying, hey, I'm a minister, I'm coming to help. I can give them a card that says I'm the CEO of an NGO, non-governmental organization. I'm the CEO of a humanitarian aid organization. I've got money, I came to help. So they always say, none of them ever said no. They always say, well, come in. So we started JMICF on that basis, and I asked Terry Mize to be on the board of that. And as I said, Terry and I have been dear friends forever. In fact, when my son Paul was killed back, 18 years ago now, back in 2004, I actually asked Terry to do his funeral, to minister at his funeral, because I knew thousands of preachers, and I just thought, who do I want to do the funeral? I know so many preachers. Right. I know very famous preachers, and I know every kind of preacher there is. And I settled on Terry to do Paul's funeral because my son Paul, because both Lynn and Paul had gone hunting and fishing with me and Terry many times. We were all friends, and so we're close. And so they're on the board, and they live now in Del Rio, Texas, and pastor a great church called Grace Community Church. And so Terry's actually at Paul Crisan's funeral. It's because Paul died just on January 1st. He had a massive heart attack and never regained consciousness, which I'm very sad about that. It's a great, great loss. And now listen to the word I said. I said it's a great, great loss. I didn't say he's lost. A lot of people get upset when you say, well, I lost my husband, lost my wife, lost my child, because they say, oh, no, they're not lost. Well, no, I know Paul's not lost like a wayward sock in the dryer, but it is a loss. It's a loss to me personally. It's a loss to the ministry. It's a loss to heaven. It's a loss to Romania. It's a loss to the Gypsies. It's a loss to the orphans. It's a tremendous hole has been left there. A hole in the world has been left because of his passing. It's a loss, a great loss. And so, we've helped them financially for so many years, and been so involved in the projects, both with orphans and with the Gypsies and what have you.
Well, I just wanted to inject that here this past Christmas, you and Paul were on the phone talking, and then texting back and forth, and they needed help putting up a wall. Right. And they needed
the weather, so much rain had rotted a wall. It had gotten mold in it.
Yes, in the orphanage. In the orphanage, yeah. And he'd also been helping Ukrainian
Right. I had built an orphanage. I had built a home on Paul's property numbers of years ago from the ground up, beautiful new home for orphans. But at the moment, they didn't have orphans there because of a government snag. And so he said, Brother Terry said, I'm going to go to Ukraine because of the war. There's so many displaced people, refugees, women and children. And he said, I'm going to bring the women and children back here and put them in the home if it's okay with you. I said, yeah, it's fine with me. And so we set up a little plan to redesign some things and make some more different rooms.
Right.
And so we paid for that and helped him get that done. And then, of course, replacing the wall that needed to be replaced. And so we're always helping them. But anyway, he went to heaven.
Yes.
He left us. He ran his race, finished his course, and
he got the wall built though. Before
he did a good job.
Bless his heart, my goodness. And he hasn't been well. You know,
he's battled some things.
And so he just kept on with the vision. He just kept on with the vision. He kept on doing what God had called him to do, and he's been such a faithful asset, not only in the orphanage side, but with the Gypsy pastors.
Right. I wanted to talk about that because when I first went to Romania, I started to say a while ago, I was preaching for Terry Mize in Arkansas back in the 90s. And Terry and Dorcas had just adopted a little girl, Mirabella, little bitty thing, had adopted this orphan from Romania through Paul. And so they'd gone over there to get her. That's a whole story. Oh, my Lord, what a story. We'll have to get Terry on the program to share that sometime.
My goodness, yes.
Or Dorcas. But anyway, so they had gone over there and to get Mirabella and then came back. And while they were there, they had visited another orphanage in a little town called Albaulia. And so I preached for him in Camden, Arkansas, Sunday morning, Sunday night, and dismissed the service, or turned it back over to him to dismiss the service. And I went and sat on the front row, and so he got up and was dismissing the church. And then in his dismissal, he said, "Church, I want you to pray for me, pray with me."
Yes.
Because he said, there's an orphanage I just visited in Romania in a little town called Albaulia. And he said, it's got all girls in it. Mm-hmm. And he said, it has no water. And he said, of course, the heating over there comes from boilers from water, as well as water comes from there. So water serves two purposes. It's water to drink and water to bathe in, but it's also water to heat the boilers, to heat the house, to give them heat. And he was crying, and he said, "Church, pray with me." He said, "I was just in this orphanage there in Albaulia," and he said, "and they have no plumbing for water." That's right. And it's almost wintertime. The Romanian winter is coming, and it's a harsh winter. And he said, "I'm just heartbroken." He was crying and crying. And I'm sitting on the front row waiting for him to dismiss the service. And he's talking to the people about praying, and he's got tears running down his face. And I said, "Terry, Pastor." And he said, "What, Brother Terry?" And I said, "Let's just go plumb it." He said, "What?" I said, "Let's just go plumb it. If those babies need water and they need plumbing, let's go do it." And he said, "Well, they've got copper tubing." Said a Scandinavian country gave them a bunch of copper tubing. He said, "But the Romanian plumbers don't know how to deal with copper. They can't use it. It's just laying there." And I said, "Well, let's find some plumbers. I know I've got partners that are plumbers, and we can find plumbers." And I said, "Let's just go over there and plumb the thing." And he said, "You'd go with me? You'd do that?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I don't know anything about plumbing, and I'm not going to plumb." But I said, what I'll do is, I said, "You and I, while the plumbers are plumbing, giving those babies some water," I said, "you and I will do a pastors conference." I said, "We'll invite pastors in, and we'll train them in the word of faith. We'll teach them faith.
Tremendous.
We'll teach them authority, spiritual authority. We'll teach them how to stand in the evil day. That's and how to the shield of faith will knock out the fiery darts of the enemy." Yes. And he said, "You'd do that?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Now I don't want to go back over and over and over," which was famous last words, because I've been back over and over and over. I said, "But I'll go once, this first time." And I said, "And I'll train you how to do pastors' conferences, and you can just go back as much as you want and train pastors." So I got on the phone and on my mailing list and said, "Calling all plumbers. I need some master plumbers." And I mean, they came from Seattle, Washington. They came from the East Coast. They came from the West Coast. They came from everywhere. That's amazing. And I told these guys, I said, "Now, you master plumbers," I said, "you need to bring all your gear."
That's right.
And I said, "I know it's going to be heavy, and I know we're going to have to pay overweight charges on the airlines, but I said, you need to realize this is Romania. You need to be thinking what you might need, because if you need just a little elbow, just a little copper piece,
Right.
I said, you can't run down to Home Depot. There is no Home Depot. You can't run to Ace Hardware. There is no Ace Hardware. You can't run to, Lowe's.
Come prepared.
You got to,
for anything.
if one little piece like that would shut the thing down, we're shut down. I said, so you bring whatever you need. Those plumbers, I had a bunch of them show up. With heavy tool chest. We paid a bunch in overweight airfare, but we had no choice.
That's
and
right.
so, they went on. I even had one of my little sweet partners, a little girl named Andrea. Her name's Domagala now, Andrea and Michael Domagala. But Andrea partnered with me, started partnering with me when she was a teenager.
That's right.
She was like 16, 17 years old, started partnering with me up in Connecticut, up in New England. And she called me and she said, Terry, Michael can plumb. And she said, so we're going to go with you to Romania. And I said, oh, honey. I said, aren't you pregnant with your first baby? She said, yes, I am. And I said, no,
very
I
brave,
don't want
very
you to go
fierce young woman.
I don't want you to go to Romania. And she said, no, I want to go. And I said, Andrea, I don't want you to go. And she said, well, I'm going. I said, Andrea. I said, I have delivered babies in the mission field. That's what they do when they come get a missionary to be the doctor, So I've delivered my fair share. And I said, I do not want to deliver your first baby in Romania. You stay home. She said, I'm not staying home. I'm going. So she and Michael came.
Yes, they did.
And we, I don't know, we must have had 12, 15 people went with us, men and women. Mm-hmm. And boy, those ladies worked in the orphanage all day from Kansas City to Kansas City, and the plumbers plumbed all day from Kansas City to Kansas City, or from Kansas City to Kansas City.
What a wonderful
And then
thing.
Terry and I went and rented a venue and
Hallelujah.
had a pastor's conference, and I tell you, they fought us. The Catholic Church, of all things, fought us and fought us and fought us.
We could all work together.
They went down and put a big old chain, big chain like this, on the venue where we couldn't get in. And they put a signs up there saying these meetings are canceled. And they put stories in the newspaper saying these Americans are over here saying they're here to help kids, and
Isn't
they're not.
something?
They're stealing children, and they're doing all these horrible things. We had an attack, but we won. And I went back down to my hotel, and I said to the hotel manager, I said, "You rent me a room quick. I'm going to have about 100 pastors in here, and I need a room." So I paid for that, and I left two of my guys down at the venue where it was chained up. And they said, no, the meeting's not canceled. It's just down here at the hotel. So we had a great pastor's conference. We had great plumbing. That orphanage got first-class plumbing, got first-class water, heating, water, life to those babies. And then I just kept on going year after year after year, teaching those pastors, training those pastors. And because of that, I want to say this before we ran out of time. Because of that, those pastors will tell you, if you go talk to those Romanian pastors, they will tell you, they said, because Terry Mize came.
Right.
They've told me this time and time again, because Terry Mize came and had pastor conferences and taught us the word of faith, taught us how to live by faith, how to operate by faith.
Yeah.
You've been there with me and heard them tell you the story.
Yes.
They said because of that, we have now started over 400 churches.
Isn't that wonderful?
Not only in Romania, but in other countries. We've gone into other countries.
This is for eternity.
And started 400 churches. And Romania's changed. The government changed. The government saw what we did. They saw what was happening to those Gypsy pastors because we was teaching them the word of faith. And so the government changed and changed their policy toward Gypsies, because Gypsies are very despised and looked down on and have no rights and stuff. They're very discrimination. And the Romanian government changed because of it. I had favor with the king of the Gypsies.
That's right.
One night I was preaching in a little Gypsy church, and this little lady looked like she's about 300 years old, just sitting on the front row, and she's all covered up with her shawl over her head, and she was making all kind of noises, like that, and disturbing the service, So finally I walked over to her, and the place was packed out. And I walked over to her, and I said, Mother, stand up with me. And she stood up, and I said, what can Jesus do for you? And she told me whatever, and I put my arms around her and just hugged her to me and prayed for her, and God blessed her, and she's helped, and she sat down. And a few days later, I got a call from the king of the Gypsies, and he wanted me to come to his home. Now, the Gypsies are all over the world, but he's the king of all of them. King Florine, he's dead now, but he invited me to his home, fed me a great meal. And he said, you remember that meeting you were at the other night? The little lady on the front row was making noise, and you prayed for her. And I said, yeah. He said, that's my mother. And he said, they came back and told me the story about what you did for my mother. And he said, so you're welcome to the Gypsies. The door's open for you. And he started coming to my meetings and learning the word of faith. Just tremendous things that God has done in Romania because that little girl got adopted, Mirabella. Yeah. Terry and Dorcas adopted 3 more later, Melinda and Kathy and Isabella. And I love them all just like my own kids. I fought for them. But we're almost out of time. But anyway, pray for Cammie. Her name's Cammie, C-A-M-I, Cammie. Paul's
Crisan.
widow now, Crisan, C-R-I-S-S-A-N, Crisan. And I suppose I've got to talk to her. I've talked to her a couple of times, but they're in funeral now. And I will see what she's going to do with the organization, how she's going to handle it, and how we need to fund it, what we need to do to help. And of course, we will be there to help.
And they're still working with children and orphanages.
Oh yeah.
They're still helping the refugee women and their children, and bringing them in and providing food and shelter and mattresses and food, medicines, food. All of the things that people need. Paul and Cammie, through all these years, were doing all this, and then Terry would come over. He and Terry Mize would come over, and they would preach and teach and share and develop. And God's been doing this work over there for about 24 years now, and it's just absolutely astounding.
Longer,
we wanted to share this with you, and let you know God will start way back here to bring everything back.
In the next few weeks, we'll give you a report on what we did for the Christmas Orphan Project. And I know it's tens of thousands of dollars. And we helped a lot of people, bought vehicles, provided water wells, helped orphans, helped widows, and we'll give you a great report here in just a couple of weeks.
One of the great things that we've seen is how God puts people together. I needed to obey God and go back to Romania because the Lord had charged me when I was there. I want you to see that this orphanage, the hot water is plumbed, and it's finished. And I obeyed and said, I will, of course. I don't have a clue to what to do. Through the connection that we had with Terry, there was already the capacity to see that need met. That here sits a man who travels the world, who stands in the office of an apostle, who's sent to nations. You understand, apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, and teacher, fivefold ministry. The apostle touches all of them. That's what they do. So the apostle touches the prophetic, touches the evangelistic, touches the pastoral, touches the teaching. So all of those incorporated in a gifting and a calling, as Terry Mize has with his mantle. The mantle's for the world. It's not for one region, one area, and that's why Jackie Mize International Children's Foundation is involved in supporting and helping the world. That's what this ministry does, and I have seen it for 30 plus years, and I'm very, very, very thankful to be connected.
Everything with the Lord is timing. And so we want to really stay on top of this, no matter if there's been a pandemic.
That's right.
or our faithful servant of the Lord has gone on to heaven. We're going to keep doing what we're doing.
To partner with us. You can help us help people. You helped us send Christmas. Well, you can help us feed people. You help us do all kinds of things by partnering either with my ministry, Terry Mize Ministries, or it's on the screen. You can see how to do that. Or with JMICF, with orphans. Either way. And whatever you give for the orphans, it goes there. We don't keep a dime of it.
Well, God bless you. We just want to remind you one more time that you are more than conquerors. Bye-bye.